here we go. Lined paper illusion 3.0. So this effect is great. It's mind-blowing. You throw it down on the table, people get really confused until you flip the paper over, and then they go, oh, thank goodness, because you just bent their mind a little bit. So what you got to do to pull this off is you draw the lines very carefully onto copy paper. So what we're going to need for this, we're going to need a sheet of lined paper. You're going to need a pencil with a good eraser on it. You're going to need 2 pencils of the right color to match the lined paper, a blue and a red. You're going to need something to render with. I'm going to use colored pencils. You need something to blend with. I'm going to use this colorless blender. You need a pencil sharpener. You need a kneaded rubber eraser. You don't have to have one of these, but I really recommend it for one of the steps we're going to do in here. Perfection eraser is always good to have. I love the one with a little brush on the end. You can sharpen them in the pencil sharpener, or you can sharpen them in the electric pencil sharpener. You need also some blues and reds that are a little bit darker than those 2 that I got before that are the color of the lines. That's to help sell the illusion later. You need a ruler, you need a 3-hole punch, and you're going to need some copy paper. If you notice here, the copy paper is just a little bit bigger in both directions. It's 8.5 by 11. The lined paper is 8 by 10.5. I would recommend go ahead and hole punch it so it's cut down and hole punch before you give it to the students. The next thing we're going to do is start mapping out our design. We're going to do this on the lined paper. Doing it on the lined paper makes everything so much easier because you can already see the lines. You can already start thinking about how the lines are going to go over your design. And I wanted to do a happy face for this one instead of the scary face that I did last time. So I'm thinking happy. I'm looking at it as I'm working thinking this thing looks terrifying. So it's maybe happy, maybe it's scary. And it kept like creeping me out a little bit when I was working on it. Now this part right in here, look at me fixing this. So you look at one side, you see the problem. Then you look at the other side and you see as I'm starting to work out the solution that it's going to go up and then come back down. This is what's invaluable about doing a rough draft on the lined paper. You get one side figured out of a symmetrical design like this, then you can just kind of flip and apply it to the other side. So I've got my solution there for the mouth. I'll work it out on the other side. Don't forget the red line. Warp that little sucker too. Don't leave that straight. So it is helpful on this if you have a light box or a light pad to put behind it, but I just put a sheet of white paper behind both of these to help increase the contrast. So it's not a light box, but it helps. You're going to make a nice clean copy of everything, trace all your lines out, get all your lines to where you're happy with them. So you've got everything figured out. I kind of did some redesigns on this part. I redesigned the teeth a little bit, I redesigned the eyes a little bit until I got everything where I was happy. And the only ones I really did with just a straight line with the ruler are those bottom ones. I did everything else freehand, looking through and tracing. So once you've got your design, it's all good, it's all approved by you. What I want you to do is take that kneaded rubber eraser and brush the art. And it does help if you don't put it on there like super dark when you do your drawing. Do it a medium darkness, and then we're going to lighten it up. It may be a little hard to see in the video, but in person I can still see all these lines well enough to trace them over. And it's important to lighten the lines before you put the blue and the red down, because if you put blue and red over that pencil, it's going to darken the lines and you're not going to get the effect of a lined paper. It's going to be too dark. You can do a little practice, couple of strokes on the lined paper before you go. And I like to kind of turn the pencil as I'm going down the paper so that it keeps the sharpness kind of even. If you start off with a really sharp pencil and you leave it straight, by the time you get to the bottom, it's going to go thin to thick, thin to thick. So I like to kind of rotate the pencil as I draw these long straight lines. It helps keep them tight and keeps them from getting too frayed looking too. Another thing I want to point out is look under my hand. I've got an extra sheet of paper as a hand rest. Now that I'm into the stage where I'm trying to work really clean, I want to keep something under my hand because I drag it around. Turn the paper however you want. This is the most important step. Getting those clean blue and red lines is the golden part of this. So once you've got it really light and you put the blue and red on top of that, you don't see the graphite under them that gets them really dirty and muddy. You get those nice, clean, bright, tight lines. Everything else is just icing. I'm going to go in, I'm going to do some rendering, I'm going to do some coloring. I'm doing some of my extra items here, the eyeballs, the teeth. I'm getting those worked out. Now for my shading, I'm using the warm grayscale colored pencils from Faber-Castell. There's 6 different shades, and you can lay down the exact shades you want. Can you do this with graphite? Of course you can do this with graphite. If you want to do it with colored pencils like this, it's a good way to do it. If you want to do it with graphite, also great. So I'm adding shading to help sell the effect that the paper's moving. So I'm putting a strong shadow on the right, a lighter shadow on the left. I also did shading like going behind the cheeks where it's coming under there. I put a little shadow under the chin, a little shadow under the nose, and some of those sections of the paper, I put a shadow underneath those. And that's just kind of an imagined light source. You see here, I'm heightening those blue lines. So in the shadows, the blue lines need to get a little darker. That's why I've got the darker blue. And we'll do that just a little bit in the red too, where it goes into the shadow. You're gonna put the darker red. Like I say, I would recommend hole punching it before you do all this art, because if you mispunch it at this point, you're gonna cry. It's gonna be really, really sad. So punch it first. Cut it down and punch it before you give them the paper. I thought I was just gonna do it in gray, but it didn't have a lot of pop. So I went ahead and added the blue and the red, the similar shades that I used from the lines of the paper to give it a little bit of extra something. It really seemed to help. Another thing I find really helpful to help sell this illusion is to put the red line on the back of the paper. I'm going to warp that one too. So what the red line on the back does is it helps give the illusion of the transparency of the lined paper, because lined paper is a little bit more transparent than copy paper, and you can see that line coming through. So if you put the red line on the back dark, then you'll be able to see it through the white paper, and it'll help sell that illusion. You've got the hole punching, clean lines, the shading, the line on the back, all that works together to convince your brain that this is really a sheet of lined paper, to just create a visual magic that people will want to believe. Hey, thanks for stopping by Crawley Art Room.